Imagine yourself roused from slumber by a sound you cannot place: a distant dog barking, a neighbor coughing behind a thin wall, the clatter of someone spilling a jug of water onto the street below. The sky outside is not yet light, but the city is already stirring. You are in an insulae, tall, ramshackle apartment block, packed tightly in the Subura, one of Rome's most crowded and infamous neighborhoods. The walls around you are cracked. The plaster flakes into your bedding, which is more straw than cloth. The air smells faintly of old oil, dust, and something sour, perhaps spilled wine from the tavern downstairs, or simply the accumulated scent of too many bodies in too little space. There is no window, just a wooden shutter you prop open with a shard of pottery, letting in a faint draft and the first murmur of morning. You dress quickly, not out of excitement, but necessity. The communal latrine is a few streets away, and the line will soon grow long. You pull on your tunicos, the color of undyed wool, and stained in places you try not to dwell on. Sandals, if you own any, are already worn thin. As you step outside, the street greets you not with sunlight, but with a pungent cocktail of odors. Rotting vegetables tossed from windows, smoke from cooking fires, the tamps of urine pooling in a corner where the drainage system overflows. Somewhere nearby, a street cleaner, one of the many slaves employed for such tasks, uses a branch broom to push filth toward a narrow gutter. It helps, but not much. Water, when you find it, must be drawn from a public fountain. If the aqueducts are running properly, it flows cool and clear. But if there's a blockage or tampering, it trickles, or smells faintly of something metallic. You hope the gods are kind today. Breakfast is not a meal to linger over. Perhaps a bit of bread, hard and dry, dipped in watered wine, maybe an olive if you're lucky. You eat standing up, as there is nowhere clean to sit. Then it's off, perhaps to a workshop, or to haul cargo, or to sell your voice as a street crier. You do what you must, not for ambition, but for survival. There is danger in the day, always. Fires break out frequently in the insulae, their wooden upper floors kindling for catastrophe. Thieves lurk in the alleys, and while the night may bring some quiet, it also brings risk. Without street lamps, Rome after dark belongs to shadows. You cannot count on safety. There is no guarantee of fairness, but you have neighbors, and routines, and prayers whispered at little shrines set into walls. You share scraps of news about a magistrate's decree, or a distant war, or a gladiator who's become the talk of the baths. And always, the background thrum of the city hooves against stone, the shout of merchants, the metallic ring of hammers from the smithy. It never stops. By the end of the day, you are sore and hungry, and perhaps a little grateful to have made it home with your coin purse still tied to your belt. You climb creaking stairs to a room that smells of oil and damp plaster, and you try to sleep with one ear open. This was daily life for the majority of the plebeians, who made the city function but received little of its glory. Their Rome was not carved in marble, but built from brick, sweat, and compromise. And yet, the rhythm of their lives had its own kind of order, predictable, if perilous, grounded in simplicity, in repetition, in small victories. Now, let us drift away from these narrow alleys and crude apartments, and turn our attention to a man whose final days echoed not with simplicity, but with seismic consequence. Now, imagine yourself not among the crowded slums of Rome, but in the hushed chambers of power, in the very heart of the Republic. During a time when whispers held the weight of daggers, it is early March. In the year 44 BCE, the city seems calm, but beneath its cobbled streets and stately porticos, something ancient and fragile is beginning to crack. Julius Caesar, once a general and now dictator for life, walks through Rome with a strange calm of his own. Admired by many, feared by more, and worshipped by some, he moves like a man at the center of a quiet storm. The days leading up to his death are not filled with suspenseful music or dramatic confrontation, but rather a slow, careful unraveling. Caesar receives warnings, some veiled, others direct. A soothsayer famously tells him to beware the Ides of March. He hears it, and then continues on, as men in his position often do. The IEDs come anyway. In the Senate, there is a different rhythm: cool marble, measured voices, and men in white togas who speak in controlled tones. But behind their calm eyes lies tension. These are senators who once served the Republic with pride, and now fear they serve a king in all but name. In taverns and forums, common citizens debate Caesar's merit. Some speak of how he distributed land, or how he brought order to a crumbling political system. Others mutter about his ambitions, his disregard for tradition, his taste for power. Yet these murmurs are not shouted. They are shared in cautious tones, between glances over shoulders. Then, on the morning of March 15th, Caesar rises. He delays going to the Senate. His wife, Calpurnia, has had unsettling dreams. She begs him to stay. The omens are strange sacrificial animals with missing hearts, birds behaving oddly, an atmosphere thick with anticipation. But Caesar is not a man to be ruled by superstition, or perhaps not one who wishes to appear so. Eventually, the theater of Pompey is quiet when he arrives. Though not the Senate House, it is serving as its temporary replacement. The room is airy and columned. Statues of gods line the perimeter. The air smells faintly of dust and old incense. It is not a place of battle, but it will become one. The senators gather, smiling, greeting him. A few lean close, offering petitions. Then, in a moment that no one truly hears before it has already begun, a dagger is drawn. Caesar resists at first, confused, then wounded, then overwhelmed. 23 wounds mark the end of his life. His last moments are not shouted, not glorious. He says little. He falls beneath the statue of Pompey, once his rival, now merely stone and witnessed. The conspirators step back. The Senate chamber is still. Outside, the city does not yet know what has occurred. There is no immediate uprising, no thunderclap of justice, just silence, uncertainty, and the smell of iron in the air. In the days that follow, the streets of Rome are thick with rumor. The body is burned in a public funeral that sparks anger and fear. The Republic, it turns out, cannot be stitched back together. So is what the daggers removed was not a tyrant, but a center of gravity. The years ahead would not bring peace, but in hindsight, it all seems inevitable. But in the moment, it was chaos wrapped in quiet. Now, from the conspiracies of senators and the slow collapse of an old order, let us turn our attention deeper underground, to shadows, torches, and sacred silence, where another kind of secret stirred in the ancient dark. Now, close your eyes once more, and imagine the light of Rome fading not into the gentle glow of sunset, but into the absolute dark of stone corridors beneath the earth. You are descending, carefully, slowly, into a Mithraeum, a hidden temple of the cult of You step down worn stairs carved long ago, the air growing cool and still. The sound of the city vanishes behind you, replaced by silence so complete you can hear the echo of your own breath. The chamber opens suddenly into a small, cave-like space. Low ceilings arch above you. Along the sides, stone benches invite no comfort, only obedience. The walls are painted, faded images of celestial scenes and mythical battles. In the center, a relief catches your eye. A strange scene repeated in every Mithraeum across the empire. A man, clothed in Persian garb, slaying a bull. This man little is truly known about him, not even by those who worshipped him. The cult was secretive, passed from initiate to initiate in solemn rites. There were no grand public festivals, no open temples. This was a religion of shadows and mystery, practiced by candlelight and silence. And though the Roman Empire was vast with gods for every corner of life, Mithras found his way into the hearts of soldiers, merchants and civil servants, men drawn to quiet discipline, loyalty, and the eternal struggle of light against dark. Initiation into the cult was not a casual affair. It required silence and trust. There were 7 grades of membership, each with its own rituals and meanings raven, names that hinted at deeper transformation. Each level tested the initiate through symbolic challenges, sometimes involving fasting, blindfolding, or trials in near total darkness. Yet no one outside the cult truly knew the full extent. And that, perhaps, was the point. The rites, we believe, echoed the story of Mithras, slaying the bull. The blood from the bull was thought to give life, fertility, and cosmic renewal. But in these temples, no real blood flowed. The act was reenacted in symbol, in sacred drama, a metaphorical death for a spiritual rebirth. Some Mithraea were large, with carefully cut niches and detailed frescoes. Others were no more than repurposed storage rooms or caves, simple, dark, and austere. Yet all were constructed the same way, long and narrow, meant to evoke the feeling of a cave. The idea was not comfort, but transformation. You entered as one person, and emerged as another. Despite the secrecy, the cult of Mithras spread across the empire from Britain to Syria, and yet, it left behind no scripture, no gospel, no doctrine, only the silent language of symbols, repeated over and over again. The slaying bull, the torchbearers, the zodiac signs, circling above. Eventually, as Christianity grew and spread, it left behind ruins rooms beneath modern cities, artifacts in museums, and countless unanswered questions. But here, beneath the stone and ash of time, in this quiet underground chamber, you can still feel it. The hush, the reverence, the weight of hidden belief. And now, as we leave the shadows of forgotten temples, let us rise again into the light of day and the orderly, polished world of the Roman elite. Let us walk the marbled floors of power and listen to the deliberate, dignified silence of the Senate. Now, imagine yourself waking not in a crowded insula, but in a Damasa private Roman home, spacious, orderly, and touched by the softest light of the morning sun filtered through linen curtains. The walls are painted in deep ochres and cool greens, the floors set with careful mosaics. Somewhere, a fountain murmurs, "You are a senator of Rome," and the day ahead is long. Servants have already been awake for hours, preparing bread and watered wine, lighting braziers to take the chill from the marble. Your morning begins not with labor, but with ritual. A slow washing of the hands, a robe of snowy white, the murmured prayers to household gods who watch over your family from their quiet niche in the atrium wall. You eat simply olives, bread, perhaps some honeyed figs, if the season allows. The food is not elaborate. Status here is measured in restraint. It is not hunger that guides the elite, but protocol. The journey to the Senate is not far, but always deliberate. You walk or are carried in a litter past colonnades and fountains, the streets swept clean before your arrival. Along the way, petitioners may approach, their tunics worn and their voices low. They plead for favors, intercessions, attention. You nod, perhaps promise to speak with someone, or offer only silence. Your presence alone is an answer. In the Senate House, the marble steps are cool beneath your sandals. You take your place among equals, though in Rome, equality is a careful fiction. The room smells faintly of wax and parchment. You sit, you listen, you wait. Speeches are long, winding, and formal. Senators do not argue. They orate. One speaks of roads in the another raises concern about a tax levy. All use the same polished Latin, measured, rhythmic, laced with allusions to old conquests and the wisdom of ancestors. The tone is dignified, but the undercurrent is familiar. Ambition, maneuvering, subtle games of influence. You may speak today or not. Your presence matters more than your voice. Simply being here, draped in your white-bordered toga, is a declaration of your station. Power in Rome is not shouted. It is whispered, implied, carried like a seal in your hand. After the session, you may attend to private matters, meetings with clients, a quiet word with a magistrate, a glance exchanged across a colonnade that means more than any written note. Perhaps you host a meal lateracina with other senators, carefully curated. The topics of conversation are preordained, yet always danced around like steps in a well-rehearsed performance. Even leisure is political. A visit to the baths means more than cleansing. It is networking, subtle alliance building. You must be seen, but not too often. Engaged, but never eager. As evening falls, you return home. The light shifts through the open courtyard, casting golden patterns across the floor. The city quiets, though only a little. You sit by a scroll of Virgil, or perhaps dictate a letter to a scribe by the glow of an oil lamp. The air smells of warmed stone and distant cooking fire. This is a day like many others, predictable, constrained, and utterly shaped by the invisible architecture of status. There is little rest in a life of power, for though the world may bow to you, your place within it must always be maintained. One misstep, one political shift, and the privileges of your class may become its burdens. But for now, in this moment, you are still in Rome, still draped in tradition, still surrounded by the reassuring rhythm of routine.